What would you do if the Death Note fell in front of you? If the Death Note fell in front of me, I would be faced with an immense moral dilemma and a grave responsibility. The Death Note has the ability to kill anyone whose name is written in it. The possibilities and moral dilemmas are intriguing, to say the least. I would see it as a tool for vigilante justice, or would reject the idea of playing God and defer to established legal systems. The concept of the Death Note serves as a fascinating thought experiment, prompting us to reflect on our own values and principles in the face of immense power and moral complexity. Before delving into possible actions one might take, it's crucial to understand the rules that govern the Death Note. The Death Note has a set of strict rules. 1. The person whose name is written in the Death Note will die. 2. The writer must have the person's face in mind when writing their name. 3. People sharing the same name will not be affected. 4. If the cause of death is specified within 40 seconds, it will happen. 5. If the cause of death is not specified, the person will die of a heart attack. 6. After writing the cause of death, details must be filled in within 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, let's see what I would do if I got the Death Note. See, I have 2 answers for you. First, I'll tell you what I would do if I was just an immature teenager, full of adrenaline and no sense of justice. Then, I'll tell you about my current thoughts about this scenario. When I was a teenager, I was a super curious guy. First, curiosity would lead me to test whether the Death Note is real. I might write a name to see if the specified cause of death occurs. This testing phase is critical in determining the notebook's authenticity. I would kill a criminal who has got a life sentence but has done a heinous crime. Then I might eventually decide to use the Death Note, but with strict criteria. My goal could be to eliminate those who pose a grave threat to society, such as murderers, terrorists, or rapists. This approach assumes a moral responsibility for their actions, but is fraught with ethical dilemmas. But I would have no regret if I had the chance to write the name of these criminals. In 1966, Richard Speck embarked on a gruesome rampage at South Chicago Community Hospital. Speck's merciless actions led to the torture and murder of 8 nurses during a 5-hour ordeal that left Chicago forever scarred. His unsuspecting victims, described as being led like lambs to the slaughter, endured unimaginable horrors. In 2007, the Pettit family in Connecticut fell victim to an equally horrifying crime. Jennifer Hawk Pettit and her 2 daughters suffered a brutal assault and murder in their own home, while Dr. William Pettit, the father, narrowly escaped with his life. The perpetrators, paroled burglars Joshua Komorszewski and Stephen Hayes, targeted the family with ruthless intent. Their actions included subjecting the victims to unspeakable torture before ending their lives. The 2 young daughters, tied to their beds, tragically succumbed to smoke inhalation as the house was set ablaze, while Jennifer met her end through strangulation. The killers faced the death penalty but had their sentences commuted to life imprisonment when Connecticut abolished capital punishment in 2012. But I would have done the job if I had the Death Note. In 2001, Germany witnessed a gruesome crime that defied belief. Armin Maiwis, driven by a macabre desire for companionship, posted an advertisement on a cannibalism fetish website seeking a victim to be slaughtered and consumed. Most respondents withdrew, but burned Jurgen Armando Brandes accepted the horrifying invitation. Maiwis documented the grotesque act on video, including the amputation of Brandes' penis, an attempt to consume it, and the victim's eventual death from blood loss. Maiwis went on to kill Brandes by slashing his throat and consuming his remains over a chilling 10-month period. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with no indication that his insatiable fantasies of cannibalism had diminished. Next, in 1965, remains a harrowing reminder of the depths of human depravity. Sylvia Likens, a 16-year-old girl, was found dead, her emaciated body bearing over 150 burns and cuts. Initially believed to have starved to death, it was later determined that she died from a brain hemorrhage and malnutrition. Gertrude Baniszewski, a mother of 7 who had been entrusted with caring for Likens and her sister, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Shockingly, Likens' parents had paid Baniszewski to care for their daughters, but instead she allowed her own children to subject Sylvia to relentless abuse, including forced consumption of feces. Now, tell me, would you not write these criminals' names in the Death Note if you came to know about these incidents? But besides choosing my targets, I would take serious precaution to prevent my identity from being revealed. In the world of Death Note, a thrilling cat-and-mouse game unfolds between Light Yagami and L. If I were to use the Death Note, I might expect that a formidable adversary could emerge to challenge my actions.
Finally, a worthy opponent.
First and foremost, it's essential to acknowledge the immense danger that the Death Note poses. The story of Light Yagami, the protagonist of Death Note, serves as a cautionary tale about the corrupting influence of absolute power. Light, initially using the Death Note to eliminate convicted criminals, gradually descends into madness and self-righteousness, believing himself to be a god of justice. This descent into darkness is a stark reminder of the potential consequences of wielding such a lethal tool. I would take great care not to fall into the same trap as Light. The Death Note's allure of eliminating those who we perceive as evil could easily lead to a slippery slope, blurring the line between right and wrong. Therefore, I would establish strict principles to guide my use of the Death Note. No personal gain. Using the Death Note for personal gain, such as eliminating competitors or enemies, is a surefire way to draw suspicion. I would avoid any actions that could link the deaths to me directly. No revenge. Revenge-driven killings, even of those who have wronged me, would be off limits. Such actions would only perpetuate a cycle of violence and vengeance. Avoid law enforcement. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies are not my adversaries. I would not target them, as their investigation and intelligence capabilities are formidable. Avoid becoming a target. The Death Note has a way of attracting attention. To minimize the risk of being hunted by other Death Note users or investigators, I would work discreetly to avoid publicizing my actions. Create distractions. To divert attention from my activities, I might create diversions in different locations to confuse any potential pursuers. Like writing names of people around the world, not from any particular place, randomly chosen locations. Stay low-key.
Oh, okay.
Like Light's Elias, Kira, I would adopt a pseudonym to maintain anonymity. This would prevent anyone from linking my actions to my real identity. Aim for change, not power. My goal would be to influence positive change rather than amassing power. Eliminating the most dangerous criminals would be my primary focus. No evidence left behind. Extensive knowledge of criminology and forensic science would be essential to ensure that no trace of my involvement is left behind. The Death Note is a double-edged sword that can easily corrupt its user. If it were to fall in front of me, I would approach it with caution and strong moral compass. My aim would be to use its power for the greater good, avoiding the pitfalls that led to Light Yagami's downfall. Ultimately, the responsibility of possessing the Death Note is not one to be taken lightly, and careful ethical considerations would guide my every action. One notable mistake Light made was killing Ray Penber, which drew suspicion towards him. Learning from this, I would aim to maintain an appearance of normalcy and evade the prying eyes of potential opponents. This calculated strategy increases the odds of remaining undetected and escaping pursuit. Unlike Light, who embarked on a mass murder spree, taking the lives of countless individuals, a different path would be chosen by me. A strict code of ethics would be upheld by me, sparing the lives of those deemed innocent or whose crimes were not severe. The inclination to differentiate between right and wrong would be crucial in this journey. Building a small, loyal team, as Light did with characters like Misa Amane, would be a logical move. Trustworthy allies could assist in executing elaborate plans and keeping the Death Note's existence hidden from authorities. Loyalty would be paramount, and no team member, besides the Death God Ryuk, would be privy to one's true identity. Securing a hidden location for the Death Note would be a priority, as a cramped house would be ill-suited for safeguarding such a powerful artifact. Precautionary measures would be in place to ensure the book's safety, even in the event of a police raid. The ultimate goal, as portrayed in the anime, would be to create a world devoid of crime.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
But what about the broader ethical implications of wielding the Death Note? Would the desire to eliminate criminals justify the means? It's a question that lies at the heart of the Death Note series and forces viewers to confront their own values and beliefs. In the real world, the notion of possessing a Death Note is unsettling. It underscores the dangers of unchecked power and the potential for individuals to rationalize morally reprehensible actions for what they perceive as the greater good. While we may not encounter a Death Note in our lives, the ethical considerations it raises are applicable to numerous aspects of human decision-making. That's why, if I get the Death Note now, I'll have two approaches. I wouldn't touch the notebook because doing so summons the Shinigami, who relentlessly attempts to manipulate me into using it wisely. Instead, I'd opt to douse it in a flammable substance like petrol, ignite a match, and reduce it to ashes, ensuring it remains out of anyone's reach. You might wonder why I'd choose this course of action. Well, while I may harbor strong feelings of anger towards terrorists, rapists, corrupt officials, and murderers, I acknowledge I lack the authority to take a person's life. I'm neither a judge in a court of law nor a police officer. It seems appropriate to entrust matters of justice to the legal system and hope that it will serve victims and penalize wrongdoers. Personally, I may desire capital punishment for rapists, terrorists, and similar offenders, but I recognize that my desires don't dictate reality. Legal procedures exist for valid reasons. While we may occasionally criticize them for delivering erroneous judgments, it doesn't justify taking matters into our own hands, assuming we are always right. Ultimately, it's true that humans are hypocrites.
You're goddamn right.
Or I'll securely relocate it without physical contact, change its appearance, and ensure its secrecy. I'll use it solely in the event of a nuclear war threat or any danger to the planet, when even the judiciary becomes helpless. Now tell me, what would you do if the Death Note fell in front of you?